Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a question that's definitely top of mind for anyone eyeing cutting-edge tech without, emptying their wallet. We've been handed a stack of sources all about the new Xiaomi POCO F7 Ultra, a phone that promises flagship power at an unbeatable value.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's to unpack whether this device truly delivers on that bold ambition. We'll be exploring its impressive specifications, real-world performance, and uncovering the specific trade-offs so you can understand precisely what you're getting and, why it matters in today's really crowded market.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Imagine having internal specs that were, frankly, unimaginable just a few years ago. Outside those ultra-pricey flagships, we're talking 16 gigs of RAM,
Right.
a sprawling 512 gigs of internal storage. But here's the real question. How does Xiaomi actually achieve this flagship feel at, a fraction of the cost? We've delved into the sources to uncover if it's truly magic or if there are some clever trade-offs to be aware of. So let's start with that immediate experience. What's it like when you first get your hands on this device? Does it feel as premium as those specs might suggest?
Yeah, from the moment you unbox the POCO F7 Ultra, its build quality immediately feels robust. It comes in this sleek black finish and that matte black rear panel. It's surprisingly good at resisting fingerprints, which is a small thing, but honestly a welcome detail. It has a pleasingly substantial weight too, roughly 205 grams, so it feels solid without being cumbersome, though I suppose it might be a touch heavy if you prefer those really ultralight phones.
But the weight, I think, contributes to that sort of premium construction feel. The edges are subtly curved, which kind of softens the otherwise angular chassis.
Yeah.
And that makes one-handed use a lot easier, especially for a device with its pretty ample 6.8-inch display.
So a solid, substantial build right out of the gate then. Any initial quirks or surprises when you were setting it up?
Well, one immediate note, and it's something, a lot of manufacturers are adopting these days, is the omission of a power adapter in the box. It's a minor annoyance, maybe, if you don't already own a compatible fast charger, even if they say it's in the name of environmental responsibility. Just something to be aware of upfront.
Right, the missing charger thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So a robust feel in the hand. And speaking of how it feels, once you power it on, your eyes are immediately drawn to the display, right?
Yeah.
What was your take on that screen?
Oh, the F7 Ultra sports a stunning 6.8-inch AMOLED screen. Now, AMOLED screens, they're fantastic because each pixel lights up individually. So what that means is you get truly inky blacks and these really vibrant, punchy colors that just pop off the display. It's designed for a silky smooth visual experience. And that's thanks to its 120 hertz refresh rate, meaning the screen updates 120 times per second. So scrolling, animations, everything feels incredibly fluid. The peak brightness is also more than sufficient for outdoor use. Even on a bright summer's day, no issues there.
You mentioned the 120 hertz refresh rate. Those are big numbers, sure.
Yeah.
But in practical terms, does it truly translate into a noticeable difference for, everyday users? Or is it more for specific, maybe hardcore gamers?
Oh, it absolutely translates into a noticeable difference for everyone. Whether you're just, casually scrolling through social media or watching videos, that fluidity is immediately apparent. And for gamers, well, it's even more critical. The touch sampling is rated at 360 hertz, which is incredibly responsive. It means when you tap or swipe, the phone reacts almost instantly. That's a huge advantage in fast-paced games where, every millisecond counts. There's a tiny punch hole selfie camera at the top, sure, but it's remarkably well integrated. You barely notice it during day-to-day tasks.
Okay, so the exterior and the display sound pretty solid, but as with any phone, the real magic or maybe the disappointment often lies, beneath this surface. What did you find when you peeled back the layers and looked at its raw performance?
Right. This is where the POCO F7 Ultra truly shines and, frankly, kind of shifts expectations for this price range. It's propelled by a top-of-the-line Snapdragon chipset, the very same kind you typically find in phones costing, well, twice as much.
Right.
This isn't just about speed. It's about shifting the paradigm of what's possible in a more accessible device. And it's coupled with that ultra-generous 16 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM. Think of LPDDR5 as the super fast highway for the phone's memory, ensuring everything runs smoothly and responsively. So everyday tasks like web browsing, social media, messaging, they're handled without any stutter whatsoever. Even really resource-hungry apps open in, the blink of an eye.
That's incredibly impressive for its price point. Seriously. So for the gamers and the serious power users out there, What about frame rates in those really demanding titles? Can it truly keep up with proper flagship performance?
It absolutely can, yeah. In demanding game titles, frame rates stayed rock steady. We saw negligible drops even at the highest in-game settings. It's built to be a powerhouse. It'll keep power users smiling for years to come, honestly. It offers plenty of headroom for new game releases and future software updates, too. It's a genuinely future-proof experience, at least in terms of raw processing muscle.
Okay, but a powerful phone is only as good as its battery, right?
Yeah.
Because what good is all that speed if it dies on you by lunchtime?
Yeah.
What's the story here with endurance?
Good point. Well, with a large 5,300 mAh cell on board, battery anxiety is virtually non-existent. On moderate use, a mix of calls, messaging, maybe a couple of hours of browsing and streaming, you could routinely end the day with around 30% battery left.
Okay, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, so you're not constantly looking for an outlet. Even heavy users, maybe indulging in extended gaming or constant media consumption, could still expect to see through a full day, maybe with some careful management.
Careful management, so probably no 8-hour TikTok binges then. But seriously, that's reassuring for most users. And what if you do push it hard and need a quick top-up?
That's where POC's W HyperCharge technology kicks in. It gets you back to full power in astonishingly short order. We saw from around 10% a full charge was achieved in just under 25 minutes.
Wow, under 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's truly blink and you miss it charging. But again, important note, you will need to source your own compatible charger, as we mentioned earlier. It's not in the box.
Right. This phone also mentioned something called Hyper AI. Now, is that just, a marketing buzzword, or does it actually do something tangible for you, the user, something beyond just sounding cool?
It's a fair question, but Hyper AI seems genuinely integrated, actually. It's more than just a buzzword. For instance, in the camera app, the AI-enhanced scene recognition intelligently tweaks exposure and color balance on the fly. In outdoor photography tests we looked at, it accurately identified and optimized for things like sunsets, greenery, high contrast scenes, with little to no user intervention needed. It's essentially like an invisible assistant, just helping you get better photos without having to fiddle with settings yourself.
So it's about making things easier and smarter behind the scenes. Does this Hyper AI extend to anything else beyond just the camera?
Absolutely. Hyper AI also extends to performance management. The phone actually learns your usage patterns over time, and it intelligently allocates system resources based on that to ensure apps launch swiftly and background processes don't needlessly drain the battery. It's subtle, largely working behind the scenes. But over a week of use, the sources suggested it felt as though the device adapted to your usage habits rather than forcing you to adjust to it. It kind of becomes more efficient the more you use it.
Interesting. Okay, so for many people, the camera is a real make-or-break feature, isn't it? Especially if you're trying to capture those everyday moments. How does the F7 Ultra stack up for photography? Does it live up to the rest of the phone's impressive hardware?
Photography on the F7 Ultra is, I'd say, solid, if maybe not groundbreaking. The main 108 megapixel shooter, that's a massive sensor capable of capturing incredible detail, delivers crisp, detailed images in good daylight. However, our sources did note that at times it can err on the side of overprocessing. It adds a level of sharpening that can feel a little artificial sometimes. Low light performance is decent thanks to a well-tuned night mode, but it won't quite match the results from the very, very top echelon of flagship competitors. The Samsungs or Apples of the world.
So good, but maybe not necessarily best in class.
Yeah.
What about versatility? You mentioned other lenses.
Yeah, the ultra-wide and macro lenses round out the package. They offer versatility for those wide-angle shots and close-ups, though both tend to exhibit the kind of softness you'd sort of expect from secondary sensors at this price point.
Yeah.
They're useful to have for sure, but the main lens is definitely the star here.
Right, got it. Now, no device is perfect, and we always want to give you the full picture, especially when a phone promises so much value. So having looked under the hood and gone through the paces, what are those specific caveats you kind of alluded to at the top? Where might a user feel those trade-offs?
Well, first and foremost, as we've said, the omission of that charger in the box. It is frustrating if you don't already own a compatible 120W adapter. It adds an immediate, albeit maybe small, extra cost and inconvenience. Second, the software skin. While it's feature-rich, it can sometimes feel a bit cluttered. There are instances of duplicate apps, prompts nudging you towards Xiaomi's broader ecosystem. Some users might find that less streamlined than, say, stock Android.
Okay.
And finally, as we just discussed, While the camera setup is entirely capable, it doesn't quite rival the very best in mixed lighting conditions, especially when you put it up against the industry leaders.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the listener, looking for that shortcut to being well-informed? It seems like for those seeking that flagship-grade performance without the associated, sticker shock, the Xiaomi POCO F7 Ultra represents truly exceptional value. It's a clear statement from Xiaomi that top-tier power is becoming increasingly accessible.
Absolutely. Its powerhouse internals, that expansive and fluid display, and the mammoth battery with blistering charging speeds, it all makes it an irresistible proposition for tech enthusiasts and heavy users alike. You will need to budget a little extra for that charger, yes. And if cutting-edge camera bragging rights are your absolute top priority, well, you might still look elsewhere.
But if you crave raw power, a gorgeous and responsive display, and endurance that won't let you down, all wrapped up in a pretty solid package, the F7 Ultra deserves serious consideration. It feels like a game changer for what you can actually expect at its price point.
Yeah, and this really raises an important question, doesn't it? In a world where this kind of top-tier performance is becoming so much more accessible, how does the continued absence of something as basic as a charger redefine our expectations of what a complete phone package should even include? And what does it truly say about the future of tech bundling, especially as companies keep pushing the boundaries of what's considered mid-range? Something to think about.